Welcome back, friends, to Practical Healthy Living's On Topic. And today we're very fortunate to have as a guest with us Dave Combs. And Dave, I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas.
And the same to you, Alan.
Thank you very much. You know, I've had a few authors on this program. We get around to talking about their books, but I don't like to pitch books in the on topic segment. But today I'm kind of making an exception because this is such a beautiful story that I feel like it is a Christmas story. So I would like to, well, first of all, tell us what is the name of your book and what is the name of the song that has kind of been the heart of it?
Well, my book is it's called Touched by the Music, and it is about a song called Rachel's Song. It's how the story and music of Rachel's Song can transform or can change your life. Basically, it was the first song I ever wrote, and it generated so many stories over the years that I ended up having to write a book about it. It's just full of inspiring, touching stories about the music and how it has touched so many lives over the years.
Can you take us back to the very beginning? Where did this start?
Well, it started when I wrote a song in right after Christmas, actually, in 1980. It was like January 1981, and I had just lost my father, and I believe that the grieving process caused my emotions and energy and creative energy to come to be released. And my way of relaxing and releasing my feelings and so forth has always been to sit down at the piano, and I'll just sit there and play chords or play something. And that January, I sat down and I played this song, and I played it from the beginning to the end. I couldn't believe it. I just played it. It was like the song had already existed, but I was just playing it. So I played it. I didn't think much about it. And my wife came home from work and she said, "What's this song I got stuck in my head?" And I said, "Well," she hummed a little bit of it. And I said, "It doesn't have a name." And she said, "What? It doesn't have a name?" I said, "Yeah, I just something I made up." So she got all excited and had me write it down, which I did. And about 3 years later, some friends of ours had a little baby girl named Rachel. And we went to her christening service. And at the service, I got the inspiration to play this song that up to then had no name. I played it. And when I finished playing it, I said, "From now on, this song will be called Rachel's Song in her honor." So that was the impetus of the beginning of Rachel's Song.
I bet they were impressed and honored by that.
They were. In fact, there wasn't a dry eye in the house, Alan, including mine. It was very touching, as you'll hear later on when you hear the song. It's very moving and emotional, and it rides the whole roller coaster of happiness and sadness and everything. So it's a very powerful little but simple little song.
Now, it seems that, just the fact with the connection with your father and then the connection with this young girl at her christening, that would touch your life significantly. But it seems like this song has changed your life in other ways too. Can you tell us about that?
Well, little did I know that this one little song would be so well received by everyone that heard it. I did finally get it recorded in about 3 years later in 1986 in Nashville, just as a demo to have something to keep. And everybody I played it for said, "Wow, you got to get this out there." So I ended up, a friend of mine had a radio program and he played it on his radio program, and phone lines at the station locked up, people wanting to play it again and that kind of thing. So it just generated so much enthusiasm and interest in the song that I knew I had something, but I didn't know exactly what that something was or what it would lead to. But it eventually led to the song being played all over the United States and even in Australia, number one song in Australia for 2 years. And then it got, I printed sheet music, people played it at weddings and so forth. So the song kind of took on a life of its own. And I began to see the potential here that maybe there's some business opportunity here for me, because I was working at Western Electric at the time, or AT&T. And so I've had a good career. So why would I think of leaving that to do my music full time, right? So, but the song and the music just took off, and it kind of like I lost control. I mean, after a while, the demand for the music was such that I could hardly keep up with it. So it really changed my life from being a IT professional manager at AT&T and all now to doing my music full time. I quit my job in 1992. And
That's fabulous. That's remarkable. So it seems like you've had continued commercial success with it.
yes, every year, I think in the 1990s, every year I would go back to Nashville with a new batch of songs. To Gary Prim, by the way, is the artist on all my albums, and I would send the songs to him. We'd meet in the studio for a week and record a new album. So we did this every year for the entire 1990s. So I ended up with 14 albums of recorded music. 7 of them, I wrote all the music on that. And then I had some others, like I do have a Christmas album, so we can talk about that a little later too. But in fact, that was my second album. After I did Rachel's song, I thought, well, now I don't have any more songs written. What am I going to do? And it was Christmas time coming up that year. And I thought, oh, I love Christmas music. So I sent my favorite Christmas carols to Gary Prim in Nashville. And I said, Gary, let's do a Christmas album. And so we met in the studio in Nashville, Tennessee in July. Now, it's hard to get in the mood of Christmas in the month of July. It's hot and you can't find snow anywhere. But we managed to do it. And so we recorded a wonderful album called First Christmas that July of, I think it was 1989. So that was my second album, was a Christmas album. And I hope folks will look that up and they can find it on Amazon and enjoy it. It's got some beautiful Christmas songs on there. One my father wrote and one song that I wrote that's on the album. So
that's fabulous. Now, you were IT executive at AT&T, and then you transition into full-time musician and composer. What was your music training background?
Well, I'm from Tennessee. I'm from East Tennessee. And if those of your audience that may be or know somebody from Tennessee, that most Tennesseans can play some musical instrument. It's almost a requirement to be a Tennessean. And I'm a Tennessean. I'm a East Tennessee hillbilly by birth, and I'm proud of it. But my parents both played the piano. My grandmother Combs played the old pump organ in her little country church, and she played by ear. My father played by ear. My mother had taken piano lessons. So they gave me piano lessons starting at age 8. But before that, my father and mother had showed me things to play on the piano. So I really can never remember a time that I couldn't play something on the piano. So it's been all my life.
We have to take a little bit of a break here, but I have a surprise for you. I'd asked you if you could play the Rachel song for us so we could hear it, but I got to thinking that would be not a real high quality presentation of the song if we just played it through the podcast. But one of our sponsors has graciously given their time so that we can play a full version of Rachel's song in high quality fidelity. And so from ABC Resources, here is Rachel's song. Oh, David, that is, and I shouldn't call you David because only your mother called you David. But it's such a beautiful song. It seems like I should call you something more. That's very inspiring.
You can call me David or Dave, or just call me at dinner time.
Okay. Now, you made the transition to pursue things musically, and I imagine there was a period of time where you were trying to do both, but you found an interesting way to market your music. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, it was interesting because I, being naive and a regular business person, I thought my song just sounded great. Everybody loved it. I would just march into the record stores and they would say, "Oh, thank goodness you're here. We will take your song and we'll sell it," and blah, blah, blah. Boy, was I in for a rude awakening. They weren't interested in somebody that didn't have a name, already having a known name. And so I got nowhere with the standard way of selling music. And so I was fortunate to be working at AT&T, and behind me was a young lady who had a friend who owned a gift shop in Old Town Alexandria. Well, if you've been to Old Town Alexandria, you know it's a tourist town, lots of shops. Well, this shop was called America. She sold Americana kind of things, patriotic things. And so this friend of where I worked with gave her friend that owned the shop a Rachel song CD. Well, the Rachel song CD got played in that patriotic shop. It got rotated in the rotation with John Philip Sousa, and then Here Comes Rachel's song. Well, and what happened
that's quite a mix.
Oh, I tell you, talk about a shocker. So the owner of the shop called me, Jane, and she says, "Dave, you got to sell me some of these CDs because everybody wants to buy it. Every time it plays, everybody comes over and wants to buy it." I said, "Well, I guess I can." So I said, "I'll bring you some." So we took her a box full of CDs, and she played it and put it in a basket there at the cash register. And in about 4 or 5 days, she called me, "Dave, you got to bring me some more. All those are gone." I said, "Wow, what is going on here?" So anyway, every 4, 5, or 6 days, I'd be going down to Old Town Alexandria, taking her a box of CDs. Well, finally, the light bulb came on, and I said, "Well, maybe there might be other gift shops besides just this one that would do the same thing." So I got to looking around, and sure enough, there were other gift shops that when I gave them a CD of Rachel's song, they'd play it, and same thing happened. People that heard it wanted to buy it. So I got to going Linda and I would go into shops on a weekend and leave. I was like Johnny Appleseed with apple trees. I was giving out Rachel's song CDs by the dozen, and sure enough, almost every one of them ended up customers of mine that would play and sell my music. And so I ended up with needing to sell that concept across the whole country, but I didn't know where the tourist towns were in the United States. I knew where, Ellicott City, Maryland was. I knew where Gatlinburg, Tennessee was, but I didn't know in Kansas or Iowa or someplace out west. I didn't know where their tourist towns were. So I said, there's got to be a way to figure this out. And nobody had a list of that I could buy. And so I found a book that had every crossroad in the country. It was called the USA Marketing Guide, every crossroad and their population. And I also bought the mailing list, the Yellow Pages list of all the gift shops in the country. I think it cost me a couple $100, but it was worth it. Big printout this time.
And so today that would cost you a little bit more.
Yeah, I probably would. But anyway, I went down that list. It was by city and alphabetical. And so I went down and I said, okay, Gatlinburg. There's 57 gift shops in Gatlinburg. Over in this other book, it said the population of Gatlinburg is 1,600 people. And the light bulb went off and said, there's no way in the world 1,600 people can support 57 gift shops. So that must be kind of a way to calculate where the tourist towns are. So I went through the whole country and found all these towns and counted gift shops. And I looked up population, put it in a database. Now, remember, I'm a computer geek kind of guy. So I created a database and I calculated the number of population per gift shop. And then I sorted the database in reverse order. And guess what? Like cream coming to the top, Gatlinburg right at the top of the list in Tennessee, Ellicott City, Maryland, or Old Town Alexandria, and every place that had a that ratio was small. That was a tourist town. So suddenly I had a very targeted list that I could call, and my hit rate went from 1 in 30 telling me yes to finally 1 in 5. Boy, that was a huge aha moment for me. And that's how I ended up. I called a ton of places and got my music sold in over 1,000 gift shops all over the whole country.
That's a wonderful story, and is a testament to your creativity and in your computer skills. But it seems like there is also a certain amount of divine intervention with your story. Can you tell us about the Guidepost article?
I certainly can, because that little article changed my life as well. I was back home in Winston-Salem, and I was answering the phone from people calling in wanting to order music, and I answered it, and this lady on the other lines wanted to order the music, and she was very inquisitive. She said, "Tell me more about your story about Rachel's song." And because she said it has meant so much to me, it's relieved my pain and everything, and tell me about it. So I told her the story of how I wrote Rachel's song and everything, and she interrupts me and she says, "Well, Dave, I have to confess, I am a writer, and I write stories for Guidepost magazine." Well, I knew all about little Guidepost magazine. It's wonderful. It's just feel-good stories, inspirational stories. And so she said, would you let me submit your story idea to Guidepost to see if they'd be interested in publishing an article about it? I said, well, sure. So she called me back a few days later, and we interviewed over the phone so she could get her information down about it. And in about a month or so, she calls me back and says, well, they're interested. They want me to help you do an article about this. So she wrote up the article for me, and it's under my name. And the article is called Two-Part Harmony in Guidepost magazine in September of 1994. And that little article tells about the story of Rachel's song, how I quit my job and all that. But the day that magazine hit the street, because it goes to over 2 million people, just a hard copy. And so my 800 number, they put it in the back of the book. They put my 800 number and they put my address. So the day it hit the street, my phone started ringing, and it wouldn't stop ringing. I mean, you could put your hand on the receiver, pick it up, somebody's there. Every time, all day long. People, I read that article, I want to order Rachel's song. So then a couple of days later,
program.
Yeah, that's my workout program. Talk about a workout. What's coming next, though, is a couple of days later, my doorbell rings, and it's my mailman. And he has drugged this canvas bag that he couldn't even pick up, full of mail, down to my front porch. And he says, "Dave, what have you done? I can't even pick this bag up." And so I said, well, I wrote an article in Guidepost magazine, whatever. And so in less than 2 weeks, Alan, I got over 10,000 letters. I mean, that was unbelievable. And they hadn't even heard the song. They just read an article about it. So, and since then, I've heard from over 50,000 people about Rachel's song. But that little article in Guidepost, it turned my life around, because suddenly I went from just a few customers to tens of thousands of customers.
We're going to have to stop here, but I would love to talk to you all night long. I want to thank you because this is the Christmas season, and as I said at the very beginning, I feel like this is such a beautiful Christmas story. I want to thank you for providing the hope and inspiration that you have to the world, especially now during a time when we've come out of a pandemic, and we have political tensions, and we have environmental tensions and racial tensions in the world. You are one small bright light in the corner that illuminates the rest of the world, and I want to thank you.
Well, I want to thank you, Alan, for inviting me on your program. This has been a lot of fun, and I hope your viewers enjoyed as much as we did producing it.
Thank you very much.